Welcome to the lectures on state space approach to control system analysis and design. The topic in today's video and the next video is about simulation and numerical solution of state equations. The first video is on simulation, the overview of it. We will see a bigger picture of what we mean by simulation, not merely the numerical solution of state equations, plotting the results and interpreting. So we go ahead. The dictionary meaning of simulation means to pretend to be, have or feel, imitate the conditions of a situation, etc. Produce a computer model of a process or a physical entity, make or resemble a real thing, make a resembling thing to a real thing. These are all the various meanings of simulation, and by simulator we mean a device that is designed to simulate a system. The simulator replicates the system behavior under different operating situations. It replicates the various controls which are available in the system. It also replicates the indications and alarms which are provided to the operator. It depends on the purpose and scope of the simulation. It may do all these things or some of these things, depending upon for what purposes the simulation is being carried out and how much we intend to do in the simulation. As I told, sometimes we may merely be satisfied by solving the differential equations or equations characterizing a system, obtaining the time series data, plotting the graphs and interpreting that. This computer-based simulation is something which is usually resorted to. The systems we generally simulate are complex systems. We don't make simulators for simpler systems which are easy to see, which are available, low cost, and they can be seen by anybody anytime. So we don't make simulators for just everything. However, we make simulators for complex things. For example, a thermal power plant or an aircraft system or a nuclear power plant. So essentially these are systems on which the investment is very high, and simulator helps us in various ways to learn the behavior of this system and to understand such systems. Simulators can be classified in various ways depending upon the type of mathematical models which are used in simulation, the purpose for which the simulator is being made, the scope of the simulation, the methodology of the simulation, the computational speed, and so on. We will see one by one what the various classifications are possible. So first we see the classification based on type of model equations used in making the simulator. So one can use only steady state models and make a steady state simulators. The system description in this case is based on nonlinear or linear equations. Most of them are algebraic. These equations which govern only the steady state of the system. Steady state heat balance, steady state mass balance, and various equilibrium conditions are only simulated. The transient conditions are not simulated. There are dynamic simulators in which, contrary to steady state simulators, the system description is based on differential or difference equations. They could be nonlinear or linear, but essential component is that they should be differential or difference equations, and they generally govern the transient state of the system. Of course, for initial conditions or for certain boundary conditions, the steady state conditions are to be applied. However, essential part is differential or difference equations. Another classification is possible based on the type of computational resource which is used. We can have analog simulators in which analog computers are deployed to perform the simulations. These days, we generally don't use analog simulators, they are outdated. We can have digital simulators in which digital computers are deployed to perform the simulations, and this is the trend these days. Possibility of also hybrid simulation exists in which some part can be simulated in analog computers, analog simulators, and the remaining part in digital simulators. One more classification is possible based on the mode of simulator operation. The simulator can operate in offline mode or it can operate in online mode. So in offline simulators, user intervention during the runtime is not possible. It doesn't take place. It works with predefined initial conditions, transients and parameters which are generally hard-coded in the system. And the results are mostly available at the end of the simulation. One has to wait during the entire runtime till the end when the results will be available, or either looking at in textual forms or in the form of graphs. If one requires to change certain system parameters, then one has to again go back to the code and rerun the simulator. User intervention during the runtime is not possible. Contrary to this, in online simulators, user intervention during the runtime is improvisant. It is possible that user can change the parameters, change either the controller parameters or the numerical solution parameters, for example the time step, etc., or the variables which are to be seen. And in online simulation, the results are continuously projected on an appropriately designed user interface. So online simulators, we can see they are more powerful, they are more attractive compared to offline simulators. Classification of simulators is also possible based on the type of system representation in the simulator. So one can have standalone simulators. Entire system is simulated using mathematical models in one simulator. Other possibility is hardware in loop simulators. In this, some part of the system exists in the real hardware, which is interfaced to the remaining part that is simulated through mathematical models. So in the standalone simulators, everything is represented using mathematical models, and in the hardware in loop or hill simulators, some part exists in real hardware, remaining part exists in the mathematical simulation in a computers, and the interface between the hardware and the simulation system in the computer is through analog to digital and digital to analog convergence. Classification is possible based on the number of simulation devices. So when we do entire simulation in just one computer or in one machine, all mathematical equations in one machine, then it is called as the stand-alone simulation. Whereas we can have, contrary to this, a distributed simulation in which the simulation is carried out in various machines which are interconnected over some kind of network. So some models are implemented in one machine, some other models in another machine, and third, fourth machine, etc. So essentially this can be done either depending upon the different systems. For example, process systems can be in one computer, the control systems can be in another computer, operator interface can be on another computer, and so on. Sometimes it is necessary to distribute the computations also in different machines because the computations may be very complex and real-time implementation may require this distributed computing. Both the things are possible. Classification based on scope of simulation leads us to full scope simulators or limited scope or part task simulators. In full scope simulators, a plant referenced simulator incorporating detailed modeling is done. So whatever plant or large system we are simulating, the simulator represents each and every aspect of the plant, each thing to its finer details. It includes, besides the mathematical equations, full main control room with operator panels as they exist in the real system, and it also may include a replica of the emergency remote shutdown panels which may exist. So as we know, complex systems are operated generally from the main control room. However, in emergency situations, there are separate emergency operation panels or shutdown panels or auxiliary and local panels. They can be operated from there. So a full scope simulator is a full replica from very fine details to all aspects of graphical user interface between the operator, the switches, the console, the indicators, everything is provided. In a nutshell, sitting in the simulator control room or simulator panels, it is difficult to distinguish whether it is a panel for the real system or it is a simulator system panel. In limited scope or part-time simulators, the system is represented to a limited extent. It focuses only on tasks related to very specific plant components or systems. So in the limited scope or part-time simulators, part-task simulators, only few operational modes are possible to simulate, and it provides only few operator controls and indications as needed for that particular specific task which is to be done or a specific plant component or subsystem which is to be simulated. Both the simulators are common. Then based upon the purpose of simulation, one can have training simulators or one can have engineering simulators. As the name implied, training simulators are generally meant for operator training, and in this the operator interface part has to be very elaborate. Detailed representation of the system as regards the operator interface, that has to be exact and plant referenced. Also, so that the operator gets the real feeling of operating a plant and the operator's learning is rigorous, it is necessary that the training simulator should run in real time. They can be further divided into basic principle simulators, where the objective is to make the operator understand the physics aspects of the process. They can be full scope simulators. Each and every aspect of the plant for which the operator is to be trained exists in the full scope simulators. Or they can be classroom or portable simulators meaning that they are not as big as replica simulators. However, the things are replicated in graphical user interface over a computer monitor or in virtual panels. Engineering simulator is generally a desktop simulator which is equipped mostly with the soft panels and no hardware panels are utilized. In training simulators, we actually have the hardware panels as exist in the real control room. The modeling scope of an engineering simulator is like a full scope simulator, meaning that the mathematical model is as in a full scope simulator. However, here the difference is that we don't have physical panels, consoles, and associated instruments, indicators, alarms, etc. The aim here is to understand the system behavior and to generate some useful data regarding the system design. Simulators are used for various purposes, as it was clear from the various classifications, some of them being gaining insight into the operation of a complex system. So essentially a simulator is something which represents a plant fully. So instead of learning something by visiting and operating a plant, one can learn the same thing, get the same feeling by operating a simulator. And in this method, one need not disturb the operation of an actual system in any manner. The usage of simulator as regards the operator training is one of the main objectives, one of the main uses. Operators are trained for normal operation, for departure from normal operation, and from emergency operation using various kind of simulators. They are used for design validation and verification of the designs. They are used also for doing testing the modifications before they are to be implemented in actual plant. So any modification, any new settings of the parameters, they can be first experimented on a simulator before going for implementation straightforward manner. Then plant procedures, that means operating procedures, the maintenance procedures and commissioning procedures, all can be developed using a simulator. And simulators are also useful in developing operating policies aimed towards improvement in system performance, system safety and other such means. Instrumentation and control systems performance can be evaluated using simulators. So basically the closed loop system behavior and all kinds of automation, at least up to the functional level, that can be verified over the simulators. Then simulators are also used, besides the operator training, they are also used for training of technicians, operator technicians, system engineers. They can be used for familiarizing the management, dignitaries and visitors. That is also one of the uses of the simulator. We derive numerous benefits from simulators. Essentially, as I told in the beginning, we build systems at huge cost, several hundred crores of cost, and any damage to system in an accident or due to a mal-operation can cause a lot of economic loss. Besides, it can cause loss to life, human life. So it can also lead to injury, etc. So a simulator can be used to train the operator before the operator can be licensed to operate the plant. For example, this is the practice in case of an aircraft or in case of a nuclear reactor, etc. The operator is fully acquainted to the system without visiting the actual system. They are made to visit and operate the system on a simulator. There an instructor observes how to what extent they have understood the system, and then they are deployed in the plant. So it is helpful in some manner because the qualified operators are only allowed to operate the plant. It protects the public, personnel and environment, all the three, as well as plant also, all the four, against any possible accident or event, and thus death or injury as well as the economic loss is fully avoided. Qualified operator, when the systems are operated in the intended manner, in a proper way, equipment failures are to the minimum extent, damage is to the minimum, because incorrect operational practices will not happen because of the poor understanding or lack of understanding the basic physics of the subsystems within the system. A person who has fully understood the things only operates, so all these equipment failures etc. are prevented. Unplanned shutdowns are also prevented, and early identification, because when we test the systems on simulators, we identify deficiencies in design or procedures etc. So simulators are also useful in early identification and correction of deficiencies. A simulator development involves a number of steps. These are defining the objectives, the scope of simulation and the overall simulation requirement. Then a suitable architecture has to be selected, and the given physical system which is being simulated is partitioned into a number of subsystems for the purpose of simulation, and in turn each subsystem we identify the main processes and the support processes. This is essentially to make the model development happen at an easy pace. So once a big system has been represented into several subsystems and several process and support processes, each smaller entity within a large subsystem is modeled separately, and then the things are grouped together to obtain the mathematical model of the entire physical system and also the representation of the entire physical system over the user interface. User interface has to be planned and developed. All the models and the user interfaces are to be integrated together. The whole thing has to undergo integrated testing, and finally the simulator is commissioned. In simulators, as it is generally understood, mathematical modeling is the, in my opinion, most important step, because it is the mathematical model based on around which rest of the things are built. The transients or the steady state, they must accurately get represented through the appropriate mathematical equations. So mathematical modeling, which is writing down the equations governing the system, is not an easy task. It is non-trivial task, and as in some of the lectures I have stated, it is interdisciplinary in nature. One has to deal sometimes with electrical systems, sometimes with mechanical translational or rotary systems, sometimes chemical systems, etc. And it requires a lot of ingenuity to be able to write down the mathematical models in standard form. Obviously, we recognize that mathematical modeling is knowledge intensive mental labor. It has to be done. And over and above that, the process of model tuning and enhancement of the model is very tedious, cumbersome, endless, etc. So we have to do a mathematical modeling in such a way that it becomes not so tedious, not cumbersome, etc. It should appear as a simpler task, easy task. And if it is so, then it is obviously not acceptable. We should only do a rigorous this kind of steps of modeling only for components of very specialized nature, and for some components which occur everywhere we can go for libraries, and this concept is called as modular modeling. So what we do, we identify standard components. For example, systems will have tanks, they will have heat exchangers, they will have valves, they will have pumps, they will have pipelines. Electrical systems will have transmission lines, various kinds of motors, turbines, generators, etc. So these components, which are almost found in every type of systems, their model can be developed separately. Their simplifications and assumptions, they can be stated, and all these along with their algorithms or codes can be kept in a library. Of course, along with the models, their operating regimes are also to be properly documented, so that when you build a bigger model or when we integrate these modular models, then we understand the loose ends, where to fit what. It is necessary. So we need to know the operating regimes, we need to know the simplifications which have been done, or the assumptions around which the model is built. Then, while modeling, one can invoke the standard model when required, and as I told in the previous slide, the remaining specific, very specialized models, they should be on that only the time should be spent on developing the mathematical model. Then there are computational speed considerations. So in one simulation cycle, generally we perform this kind of 3 tasks. Inputs are required, system equations are solved, and then the outputs are updated, results are displayed. In each cycle, these are done one after the other. So when we deploy a simulator for study of system behavior, then fast simulation is preferred, it will be preferred. Of course, it is limited by availability of resources. However, subject that study of system behavior, if it is done fast, then one can do the study in a short time of its various modes of operation or for various parameters, etc. So one can explore the system more. So in such purposes, fast simulation is usually preferred. However, in case of operator training, the simulation cycle time must equal the actual clock time. Then only the operator will get the feeling of operating a plant. And if this cannot happen, because also the system has been represented to its most finer details, it may not happen in real time. Faster deployment of computers with fast computation speed or high performance machines, despite that it may happen that it may not run in real time. So we have to deploy more computers, efficient algorithms, parallelization, cluster computing, and so on. However, the important thing is that cycle time must match to the actual clock time or the real time. Then only operator will get the feeling of operating a plant. With that, we summarize. Building a simulator is a complex task involving deciding scope, architecture, system, subsystem components to be simulated, model development, user interface development, and so on. Solving the system equations and projecting the results is just one among several tasks to be done in a simulator, as we saw. Simulation is heavily dependent on mathematical modeling, and modular modeling simplifies the model building process as it provides fully tested algorithms and codes in form of standard components in a library. These are reusable. Models for specialized components alone are only to be developed. Rest of the things can be done based on the library. And integration of library components and specialized components must be done carefully so that the entire initial conditions are the conditions, the variables being passed from one subroutine to the other subroutine, or one function subprogram to the other function subprogram, they happen in the seamless manner in the simulator. That is essential. There are several direct and indirect benefits from simulators. So simulators are generally built for complex processes like simulation of power plants based on thermal energy or nuclear energy, simulation of aircrafts, etc. Thank you. See you again in my next lecture.